Hi again everyone. So today we're going to talk about drainage. It's come up on quite a lot of the microhome sites already as one of the main feasibility issues actually. So I want to give you all some information that I think will set everybody off on the right track in terms of establishing if you can drain your site and how you're going to be able to drain it. It's a critical issue because we can't get through building control approval without drainage in place. So without that, we can't actually get a building built. So just to go through some notes here. So whenever you build a house, you have two types of drainage you have to deal with. So you have the rainwater drainage and you have the soil drainage from the house. So I think first, if we just deal with the rainwater, it's probably the easiest. So there's a variety of options for that. The core principle is though that we should try and discharge that water back to the groundwater, you would call it. So what that involves is digging a big hole, putting an attenuation tank or filling it with gravel, allowing the water from your rainwater pipes to drain into that. And then that void or volume under the ground allows that water to slowly be released to the ground to stop it getting saturated. So it's just a way of slowly releasing that water back to the ground. So it's a relatively simple thing. Typically a house might require a cubic metre of underground soakaway, we would call that. So that's a relatively simple thing to achieve. So all discharges of water into soakaways, for example, need to be minimum of 5 metres away from a building and 5 metres away from a boundary. So we'll come on to that in a bit more detail further on, but it's worth noting. So for the sewage drainage, that's the major part of it really. So obviously if you can get a mains connection to a main sewer on your site, then everything becomes a lot easier. It's about getting that organised and programmed in with the utilities folk. If you don't have that connection, and the next sort of hopeful outcome would be that you have a septic tank on your site which is existing. That can be reused again, providing we can establish the size of it. I think the most interesting aspect though is when you don't have any means of drainage on a site. So from that position, we need to get drainage on that site somehow. So typically what that will involve is all the soil waste from the house going into a septic tank or a sewage treatment plant, which is a similar type of thing, which just allows for a bit more treatment. It then may have to go through some sort of filtration, like a reed bed, and then into another soakaway, which allows that water to slowly be released to the ground. Releasing water to the ground always has to be our first protocol. If that's not possible, then we can look at other sources like draining that discharge out to the sea or to some other water course. Now, the water that comes out of these type of systems should be clean water. There should be no dirty water going out to water courses or anything like that. So the main issue actually on a lot of these is site area and ground conditions. So any part of any type of sewage system out with a building needs to be 5 metres away from the building and 5 metres away from the boundary. Now that's to stop the ground getting saturated and it undermining foundations of your building and of buildings on your neighbouring land. Sometimes if there's no neighbouring land, we can get certain relaxations on the positioning, but as a rule, what that means is if your plant for your sewage has to be located 5 metres away from the boundary and 5 metres away from the building. So you can see that it's physically almost impossible to build on a site which is less than 10 metres in length, and even then it wouldn't actually allow you anywhere to put your building. So these are critical dimensions that we need to understand early on at feasibility stage and understand, because if we can't drain this building suitably and meet the requirements, then we can't build there really. So it's a critical one for everyone to understand, and but I think it's something that most of you can establish relatively easily by yourself. You need to roughly identify where you're looking to put a building, identify a space from there that is 5 metres away from that, and also concurrently 5 metres away from the boundary. That is the only real location for your treatment plant. Even then, we need to provide additional space for a soakaway potentially. So In terms of the SEPA side of things and SEPA registration, that is less of an issue for us. Actually meeting these distance requirements for the installation of this equipment is the more difficult part and is one of the main feasibility issues that we need to look at. Obviously it can get quite involved and quite detailed, and we can end up designing drainage systems, which isn't something we want to do at early stages, and it's really a specialist thing. So I think if everyone who's looking at sites just now can try and keep that in mind about their drainage and how to execute that drainage, because it is a critical feasibility issue. So I hope this helps. We're going to keep releasing content like this on some of the other common issues that are coming up to try and help people make the right decisions themselves and hopefully come to us with sites that they're just ready to develop. So thanks again, and we'll be in touch soon.